What? So you're from Somalia?
No, no, no. This is just my uncle in Somalia. We're not from Somalia. We're Kenyan.
Oh, you're Kenyan. Okay, so your uncle went to Somalia and he's Kenyan. So he took like a trip around Africa.
Yeah, he's a diplomat, so he travels a lot.
Oh, that's quite interesting. Okay. All right. And what religion are you?
Christian,
Okay. And what country do you live in?
the United States,
Okay. And how old are you? I'm just curious.
25.
Okay. So what? So you said you're open to learn. So what are your thoughts on what's going on? What do you think is going on?
I mean, well, it ended, obviously, I think, the ceasefire, right?
I mean, okay. Here's the thing, right? I listen to reliable sources, and a
I wouldn't
person
say I'm practicing. I'm not gonna say like I'm practicing though.
practicing what?
You said the Bible. I'm not like Christian.
Okay,
I'm
that's
not.
fine. It's not a big deal. Okay, listen. I listen to what I think is reliable sources. I would say they're reliable. And I listened to this one guy who, when he says something in Israel, he's the ex IDF spokesperson. I think he's pretty on point. And he says he truly believes that this is like a temporary ceasefire because H Group is not going to give up power in Gaza. Not for the Palestinians, not for anybody. Like one Gazan said, this is quoting a Gaza now who left Gaza, who's now considered like an expert on H group because he lived under them and he writes on them, he gets interviewed on them, all this kind of stuff. He's against H group and he's also against the IDF. He said H group will rule Gaza or they'll let them they'll let it burn to the ground, right? So H group is not just going to be like, okay, for the betterment of the situation to end the war, we'll just give up power. They're just not going to do that. So what this IDF ex
Wouldn't you
spokesperson
say the
said,
same could be said about Israel?
let me just finish. Let me just, I'll address that in a minute. So what I'm saying to you is that H group is not going to give up power. So because of that, Israel is going to need to continue fighting to, I mean, again, they're probably not going to be probably totally eliminated, but to eliminate the threat against Israel. What do you mean? I mean, Israel, the problem is, listen, if there was a government in Gaza that wasn't threatening Israel and wasn't doing tea attacks and didn't do October 7th and didn't unalive Israelis for the last 40 years and wasn't continuing to do tea attacks in the West Bank and wasn't saying they were going to do October 7th over and over and over again and didn't just do a blow yourself up attack in Tel Aviv like a month ago, and didn't you blow yourself up attacks during the intifadas, and the only reason why they don't continue to do them like regularly is because they're stopped, and like I said, they're not only since October 7th they've done tons of T attacks in the West Bank, right, and Israel. So I just want to point out to you that this is a constant threat against Israel. So if the government of Gaza wasn't doing all this and they were leaving Israel alone, Israel would leave Gaza alone. So Israel is doing the definition of literally defending themselves. Like,
By
like
killing
Israel,
children and
Israel
women?
wouldn't, there wouldn't be a blockade, and like pre October 7th, there wouldn't have been a blockade on Gaza. Like Israel would not have messed with Gaza at all if there wasn't a T organization that had unalived Israel for the last, what was it, 20 years before that, and done blow yourself up attacks against Israel. Like, I don't know if you know the history during the intifadas, they were blowing themselves up in buses and unaliving scores of people, blowing themselves up in pizza parlors, blowing themselves up in nightclubs, in uh, Pesach Seders with old people in schools. I mean, they were unaliving scores and scores of people. That's what led to the checkpoints on the walls, because that's the only thing that stopped them from blowing themselves up and unaliving scores of people. Now they still shoot people, stab people, blow things up, car ram people and all other kinds of things. But luckily, the blowing yourself up attacks have been prevented by Israel for the most part. Except right now they're still doing them in Gaza against soldiers, and they managed to do one in Tel Aviv. I think it was like a month or 2 months ago. But the thing is, the guy pre-detonated himself early, so he didn't unalive anybody. He just unalived himself by a car. But he was near a synagogue, and if he had done it on time, he would have unalived a bunch of people, like 200 people.